You're locked into the Womanora Crush Wednesday podcast, the only weekly podcast inspiring, educating, motivating 1 million women entrepreneurs one Wednesday at a time. The WCW podcast is fueled by the Purpose Formula: passion plus purpose plus profit equals success. And here are your hosts, Jen and Modi.
Hey there, crushes. You are listening to episode 42 of the Womanora Crush Wednesday podcast. Today we are having some girl talk with Tiffany, the Budgenista Aliche. The Budgenista is becoming America's favorite personal financial educator. The Budgenista is the founder of the Live Richer Challenge. Since 2008, she has specialized in the delivery of financial education that includes seminars, workshops, curriculum, and trainings. Tiffany is the best-selling author of the books The 1 Week Budget and Live Richer Challenge, which is #1 on Amazon, by the way, under budgeting. With some financial advice, the Budgenista has been featured on numerous amount of shows, including Good Morning America, The Today Show, PBS, Time, The New York Times, Essence, The Essence Magazine, Forbes, Fox Business, and many more. She also blogs about personal finance for the Huffington Post and the U.S. News on World Report. Let's get ready to jot down some informative financial facts with the guru herself. Enjoy, crushes. Hey, crushes. This week we are excited to have Tiffany Aliche, a.k.a. the Budgetnista, on the show. Welcome to Womanora Crush Wednesday podcast, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
Yes. So can you tell us your Womanora story and how you started your entrepreneurship journey and, how did you become a Budgetnista?
So I was fortunate in that I grew up in a household where money was talked about all the time because my father was a CFO and an accountant. And so he taught us like the mechanics and the theory behind the best ways to use money. And my mom, she and my dad were raising 5 girls, she put all of that theory into practice, and she taught us, like, in the real world, this is how you use a budget, and this is how you save and buy groceries and things like that. So money was not a taboo subject in my house, so that's how it all started. But I didn't start my entrepreneurial journey until I was about 29, and it was the height of the recession, and I lost my job. And from there, I realized I didn't want to go back to a place that could be taken away because of what was going on in the outside world. So I decided I was going to start my own business.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
I have a quick follow-up there for you. So does your father, he has his own accounting practice, or is he an entrepreneur as well?
No, my father he was a CFO of a small nonprofit, although he had like side things that he used to do on the side. But he wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't really grow up seeing entrepreneurship.
Oh, okay. I was just curious to see whether you're like a second generation entrepreneur or what. But that's
no. You know what? It was really. It's weird because a lot of people think of working for themselves as scary, but the recession taught me to be afraid to work for someone else, and that's what it was. Because I'm not a big risk taker typically, but when I was a teacher, a school teacher. I mean, school teachers don't lose their job. That's like the safest job in the world. Mm-hmm. And so when I lost my job, I thought, wow, if the safest job in the world is not safe, then it's got to be safer to do it by yourself.
Wow. So when you started, you never turned back?
No, I never turned back. I just could not see myself going someplace after doing it because I was a good teacher. I got an awards. I had done all the work. I got my master's. It's like I checked all the boxes, and still our center closed down.
Right.
And I thought, wow, so you could do everything right, and because it's not yours, someone can take it. And so it put like this fear in me of like, I don't ever want to be dependent on someone else's choices like that again. At least if I work for myself, it's never going to be a surprise. It might not be always easy, but at least I know what's happening.
Right. So where did you form this name Budgetnista? Where did you get that from?
My baby sister, Lisa, she's the youngest of 5 of us. And when I first started doing the Budgetnista, it wasn't a business. I was volunteering. I was still teaching preschool, and I enjoyed teaching financial education in my community. And then one day I was going to be teaching at like the Boys and Girls Club. So I wanted a fun name to call myself. So I asked her, and she said, oh, you know what? There's a fashionista. You should be the Budgetnista. And I just said, okay. And so that's how it started. She just was giving me a fun name so the kids wouldn't be bored.
That's cool.
That's
That's
such a
cool.
cute name.
It is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you were already passionate about teaching, and then you already had that financial piece. Is that how, you had the financial education from your parents? Is that how you determine, like, okay, I'm laid off, what can I do tomorrow to make money? Is that how you put that together, or how did that come about?
No, I was like, okay, I'm laid off. Like, well, what do you want to do with your life? It wasn't like I knew right away, oh, I want to be the Budgetnista and teach financial education. Honestly, I said, I don't ever want to teach again. I want to do something different, but I didn't know what that different was. And so thankfully, I was getting unemployment. Back then, because so many people were laid off, they extended unemployment for 2 years. And basically, I was on unemployment for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I did a lot of volunteering. I was like a project coordinator. I was a event planner. I did all of this volunteer work in my city, Newark, for different nonprofits, trying to figure out what seemed like something that I enjoyed. And I found myself doing what I do best, teaching. No matter where I went, I found myself going into like classroom at that nonprofit and helping whoever it was that was teaching whatever curriculum or program and helping them tweak it. Until one day, one nonprofit in particular, they were like, we need a financial education program. And I wrote it, and they were like, well, can you teach it till we find someone? And I started teaching it, and people started asking for me by name, like, oh, can you bring that girl who taught that financial class again? She was good. And then one day somebody asked me, how much did I cost? And I'm like, cost?
Right.
And, that's when I was like, oh, would people pay for this? And they started to.
So
That's
right
awesome.
Right then and there, how did you know, when they said cost, how did you then know what to charge? Or
I did it. I asked my friends, like you do with everything. You're like, I was like, So I remember my first speaking engagement, someone was like, well, how much do you cost? I said, well, let me get back to you. So I pulled all of my friends and I said, well, how much do you think? What do people, I'm Googling. Right. I couldn't find the answer. Some places were like 10,000. Some places were like, so I told them, like one of my friends, she was like, well, I don't know, say $150. So back then I thought that sounded like so much money. I'm like, they're not going to give me $150 for an hour. That's like a doctor rate. And so I told them $150 and they said, okay. And they said, okay, too fast. And then this became my policy. I would give a price, and if the person didn't push back and said, okay, really fast, I knew it was too low. So I told myself, they said, okay, to 150 real quick. Next person is paying 200. The next person, they asked me to speak. They said, okay, too fast. The next person paid $250. I kept going like that until I hovered around $500. And then as my brand grew, I was able to push a little further, and I hovered around 1,000. And then my brand grew. So that was really my strategy. It was like, see what people will say yes to until they won't say yes past that amount. And then as you grow, see what people will say yes to. And now, like, my top tier speaking engagement is $13,500.
Nice. I really appreciate your honesty there, because a lot of people won't talk about that period of time where they kind of like didn't know, or they messed up. Right. And then, they kind of think like, oh, well, I just started charging $1,000. And it's like, no, you didn't.
No.
How did you get there?
And some people do out the gate, they'll ask for 1,000, but I didn't know. I'd never run a business before. And I know that there are some of my friends who, who, when they first started, they're like, girl, I told that school 1,000. I'm like, but I didn't have anyone in my life that was a speaker, an entrepreneur, that I could say, what's normal? And I didn't know. So there's a way now that you can figure out what their budget is. That you can say, well, do you have a budget for this event? I didn't know. So I'm just thinking to myself what I thought I was worth. And at the time I thought I didn't even think I was worth 150. I was like, I can't believe they fell for it. They probably were like, fool, we would have gave you 1,000. But you don't know what you don't know, And so you just, the only thing I had, because I didn't really have mentors back then, all I had were my friends and my peers. And it was a very unique time because during the recession, so many of us around the same age lost our jobs. So what we did was we started businesses. All of us said, like, you know, that's what we said. We were jobless. We were like, no, I have my own business. But none of us knew what we were doing. So we would ask each other questions because maybe this one was one step ahead in marketing, but she was one step behind in the finance part. So you would go to like, it was like a clique of us. And I'd be like, oh, you know, he just spoke at that school. Let me see how he did it. And so we would coach each other with a little bit of limited knowledge that we had until we knew better, then we did better, and then we knew better, and then we did better.
So that's so now that you're older and you're more seasoned in what you're doing, someone that were to start in your footsteps, would you tell them to get a mentor first, or would you just tell them the free will, like, you know, like you did from the beginning? You know, like what would the advice be to that person if they wanted to do, you know, just what you're doing?
So I would say that the best way is you want to hone your skills and you want to practice. So one of the best ways while you're trying to figure out what specific thing you want to be known for, meaning like, what do you want to speak to about and who do you want to speak to? Like for me, I've honed into like, I specifically speak to women about basic financial education. So although I do other things, for sometimes I get booked for schools and stuff, but that's my core, women basic financial education. So while you're figuring that out, because sometimes you don't know, what I would suggest is that you volunteer where you live and you practice. Because if you suck, I sucked in the beginning, but I'm like, look, it was free, so take it or leave it. And so I honed my skills. So I would get up there, you know, maybe a church would say, oh, can you come teach us how to? Sure. I get up there and I'm like, ooh, that was good. So one of the things I would do for myself is that, and I do it mentally now, but back then I would write it down. As soon as I got off stage and like I had a moment to myself. So if I spoke somewhere and maybe, you know, I answered questions for like 20 minutes or whatever, but as soon as I got a quiet moment, I would pull out my notebook and I would give myself a grade and say what went well and what didn't. So I was really clear about what I needed to improve. Like, ooh, when you said that story, everyone loved it. But when you explained it like this, nobody understood what you meant. So we have to fix that. So I was always grading myself and fixing like based upon the crowd's reaction, whether or not it went well or whether, and that's when in the beginning I gave myself a lot of C's and D's, like, oh, that was a D. Everybody was on their phone. Or that was a C, that was all right, you know, or that was an A. Everyone came up to you afterwards and was really excited about like, you know, working with you or whatever. So that's what I would do a lot is that. So I didn't have a mentor. So I also watched a lot of like TEDx videos of like, but I would type in like popular, most watched TEDx videos to see, well, what made this person so special and why is this video so revered, you know, and what can I take from it? Not to copy or mimic their style, but, you know, what can I take from it so I can learn the lesson? Like, oh, you know what? I learned that my style of speaking is storytelling. I'm a really good storyteller because when I just was like stating the facts, like this is how you do a budget. 1 + 1 = 2. Boring. But when I told a story on stage to illustrate the lesson, killed it. And so once I figured that out, I was like, oh, okay. So when I speak, I largely do a lot of storytelling because that's what worked best for me. And so it's humor. So I'm pretty silly. So that's what works best. It doesn't work best for everyone else. Only you know, and only way you can figure that out is through practice. And one of the safest places to practice is when you're volunteering for nonprofits and stuff, because you don't, you know, if you're not good, they're not necessarily mad at you.
Right. And if they're not paying you, they're not necessarily mad at you.
Yeah, because they're like, you know, if somebody pays you good money, because one time, oh man, I bombed and they paid me good money. I was like, yikes, sorry. But I learned a lesson, and I learned, like teenagers, I don't do teenagers. Unless you let me speak to them the way I want, because they wanted me to do a seminar for 2 hours. I was like, for teenagers? For high school students, I think it was like high school seniors. I'm like, they don't care.
Right.
Like, they don't care. Like, so I created a financial literacy game that they could actually play. And this one school system was like, no, we don't want them to play the game. We want you to stand up there and speak. And I was like, oh, I don't want to. But they paid me like $10,000. And I was like so nervous because I know how teenagers are. They don't care. I'm not Jay-Z. I'm not Beyonce. So I try to make it fun. And I got a few laughs here and there. But largely, eye rolls, phone, Nobody cared. Because 2 hours, one, is too long.
It is long.
Yeah.
If you're going to speak to teenagers, an hour max. And if, if we could have done 2 hours if we played my financial literacy game, because it's not me speaking, it's them playing a game. But they didn't want that. So at the end, like, I was like, yeah, it was terrible. Like, they were looking at me like, what the hell was that? And I'm like, I tried to tell you. Now, other people might kill it with teenagers. They might be up there for 3 hours straight, killing it, and everybody loves them. That's not me. That is not my core crowd. So I had to learn that. And so just today, somebody asked me if I would speak to a bunch of teenagers and pay me big money. And I said, can I play my financial literacy game? If not, I don't want it. Because you're not going to give me this money and be mad afterwards.
Right.
All money is...
but I had to learn that.
So, Tiffany, you've been featured everywhere from Huffington Post to Mint.com and Today Show and USA Today. How did you get from, your volunteer work, grading yourself, having no mentors, not knowing about business, to creating this amazing platform and following an audience? Like, how did you get to that stage, that level?
Honestly, it's the law of reciprocity. I'm a natural giver. So, for example, being featured in all those magazines and stuff, in the very beginning, there's this free website called Help a Reporter Out, Harrow. Every day it's free because reporters are looking for people, regular people, to quote in their stories. So they go to Help a Reporter Out and they put up what's called a query. A query is just an inquiry where they're like, hey, are you a woman that likes to drink water? If you are, contact me here. Now, that person might be a writer for the New York Times. That's what happened one time. I answered the inquiry. It turned out to be a New York Times writer. I was like, what? So we were like, oh my God, you're featured in the New York Times. I just answered a Help a Reporter Out ad about entrepreneurship and women. And so that is one of the ways that you can get yourself, you don't have a publicist or whatever, but you can get yourself in the press, and it doesn't cost you any money. Is it going to cost you time and energy to answer the query? So I used to answer at least one or two every day. I had signed up for it, and they ask you, like, do you want to get emails about health and fitness? Do you want to get emails about business? So I want to get emails about finance. And so anytime an inquiry came up that I was slightly related to, are you a woman? Yes. I would just answer all of them. Like, I'm a woman. I could speak to this. And then I would get my name, even if it was one line. So that was one. I call that collecting logos. So I used to take those logos of places where even if it was one line, and I would put that logo on my website. And then I would put the article link on my website. That way people didn't just think I was just putting logos. Even if it was one line, at least it's true. I got this logo. I'm in this article. So that was one. And then two, one of the things I started to do was I used to post a tip of the day on my social media platform. It was mainly Facebook back then. And so people, when you start giving resources for free, people start looking at you like an expert. You can position yourself as an expert by what you share. You can convince people that you're a vampire that lives on Mars if that's all you share. Mm-hmm. All you share is you with vampire teeth living in the Mars background. People are like, I really think Tiffany lives on Mars. No, because you can create whatever reality you want on social media. We know that. We know friends in real life that are broke, but yet they look fly on social media. Like, well, how? But she don't have no money in real life. How's she making it look like this? So craft what image you want. And I knew I wanted to be a financial expert. So I really only posted things that spoke to that. So that way people could say, oh, I know Tiffany. Right. This is what she does. So even if I went on vacation, I would say, here in Mexico, having a great time, found this trip on Groupon. It was $1,000. Used a Groupon to get it for $560 and an extra coupon to get an extra $60 off. Total vacation cost $500. So it wasn't just a vacation. It was an opportunity to show, look, I'm a financial expert. I got this vacation at this price. So that was another. Always giving tips after tips after tips. So that helps significantly because when you're a giver, people start to give right back to you. And what really kind of changed the tide for me because it was one, people didn't realize that, or people don't realize that the volunteering, it had several benefits. One, I got to hone my skills. Two, when you volunteer, you get to meet next level people at organizations that you might not get the access to. So if you're a new employee and you're working in the mailroom, you might not meet the CEO. but I'm a volunteer that's there every Tuesday. The CEO at some point comes in and says, thank you so much for volunteering your time. Now me and Tom are cool. I've been volunteering here for 2 years. And then when I say, well, Tom, I'm starting a business where I teach this, he's like, you know what? Okay. I wasn't thinking that, but that's what ended up happening. I got to know high level people at organizations because I had given of my time and given of myself, and they got to know me as Tiffany. I like her. And I didn't have to work my way up. And it was like, oh, I could speak to him right there. I see him on Tuesdays. He's always like, thanks for being here. And so that's what helped too, because people started seeing me in the community over and over. And so that helped because they started following me online. And then I started offering more products and services. And so, yeah, just really building a brand from a place of giving in person and giving online, and matching that with products and services that people wanted.
Awesome. So do you still volunteer?
I do, but I'm more selective. Like before, I used to I used to only volunteer because no one wanted to pay me. But now I would say I'll do about 4. So I embed giving into my business plan. So everyone has to have a business model, meaning how do you make money? People always want to know, how do you make money? So my business model is the basis of giving, because I don't have as much time to go stand on someone's stage. Like somebody asked me today if I would speak for free. And I said, no, but I don't feel guilty about it because for example, I have something called the Live Richer Challenge. It's this online financial challenge that I created 3 years ago. And my goal was to get 10,000 women signed up totally free. It was like a version of my in-person class. I had created this 5-week course for the United Way. And women who didn't live in Newark, New Jersey, from around the country, they would see me post pictures of me speaking. And today class is going to learn this. And women would say, I want to go, but they didn't live in Newark. So I said, well, what if I put the class online and make it into so I called it the Live Richer Challenge, and I created it online and I gave it away for free. And so what I didn't realize that honestly, some business owners are like really intentional, and sometimes I am, but honestly, some of the best stuff that's happened has just been accidental. So I just did it for free because I was like, you asked for help and I want to help. So I did this Live Richer Challenge for free. And what ended up happening is, I had maybe like 500-600 followers. Now I have 10,000 because these women signed up for this free financial challenge and now they want more. So they were like, this challenge is good. You should turn it into a book. I'm like, but it's free online. They're like, we'd still buy it. So I put out a book and they bought it. I'm like, wow, now money is coming in from this book. Then the next year we did a new challenge. And by this year, I learned something about what's called referral links. So if there's a company that you really like, the first challenge, I didn't know this. There were a ton of companies in the first challenge that I suggested. I'm like, I like Ally Bank. I like this app. I like Ebates. Like all of these services that I use to save money, I was sharing them because they were good services. I didn't know that a lot of these companies will pay you to share them. So I made a list of the companies that I was already talking about, and I researched online. I just typed in affiliate link for or referral link for Ebates. And sure enough, Ebates will pay you $5 per person that signs up. And I'm thinking, it can't be that much. $10,000 later, that's how many people signed up. Wow. And so even though it's giving away the stuff for free, because my business model is to help as many people as possible for free, but it doesn't mean I don't get paid. Because you trust my opinion and I would only share things that I believe in, there's ways to make money off of the fact that I'm saying, hey, this is a thing I like. And then this company happens to pay me. So I would say most of the stuff that I share, I don't get paid for because not everyone has a referral link, but some of them do. Maybe 20% do. So I can get paid off that. And then the books that people buy, I can get paid off that. And then more and more companies as my brand grew, because every year I had this challenge. We went from 10,000, and the next year we had 50,000, and this year we had 300,000. Now companies are taking notice, and they said, hey, Tiffany, you've got influence. Influence is stronger than fame. Fame is Ray J, Brandy's brother. Influence is, no, he has an album that comes out. Is anyone buying it? No, because he doesn't have influence. He has fame. Influence means that people move because they trust you and they trust your opinion and they do what you say, basically. Fame is, I just know you. Like, that doesn't mean, just because you're famous doesn't mean you have a #1 album. We know that. There's a lot of famous people who have albums and books and stuff that come out and they flop, even though we know them, because they don't have influence in that sector. And so for me, I was growing my influence. And so brands now reach out to me like IKEA, Hyatt, Ford, these brands are reaching out and saying, we just want to stand next to you. Will you be a brand ambassador? Will you drive our car? Will you stay in our hotel? We will pay you thousands of dollars to do so, and tweet about it and Instagram about it, because we want your followers, who you're influential with, to say, oh, Tiffany likes IKEA, so do I. And so I was like, okay. So you see what I mean? So my business model is to be of service to people and to treat them well and to be honest and transparent and to help them. And then along the way, figure out how I can monetize my influence without necessarily having to charge them directly.
I love that. I mean, we have this thing. You've dropped gems. I mean, we see
gems all over the ground, Tiffany. Do you hear me? Like, I'm scared to even touch the ground because I may fall over the 10,000 gems, the 300,000 gems you done thrown on the ground.
Gems, okay?
I'm blown away right now. I mean, honestly speaking, Tiffany, you know, so many crushers that are going to be listening to this episode is going to gain so much. I mean, so many of them are going to be taking notes. They're going to be rewinding to get back to what you're saying, because what you're giving right now is really going to open up so many people's eyes, to, especially women, to know that there is so much more to life than just holding on to the dream and not going forward with it. You know, you had a dream. You know, it was unfortunate that you lost your job, but it was kind of fortunate because look where you are today. You know, you never have to look back at that. You know, you're helping women every day, daily. And, you know, that just goes to my next question. What motivates you daily to keep going and give this content, this fresh content? What, you know, keeps you going creatively?
Honestly, it's the reaction and the feedback from the women. Because I am a teacher. There are people who are called to be different things. And not everyone figures out their purpose, even though it's there. Mm-hmm. Like, it's there. You don't have to look outside yourself. It's there already. But a lot of people have not unearthed it. You know, they haven't dug deep enough. They haven't sat quietly enough. And I ran from being a teacher for so long because in my limited view, I thought being a teacher was sitting in that preschool classroom singing ABCs for the rest of my life. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. But that's not true. I'm like, even now, you're saying I'm dropping gems, I'm teaching. If you were in the supermarket, you would get the same thing. Like, I meet people in the supermarket and they ask me a question and 20 minutes later they have notes. I am a teacher. I cannot help but teach. It brings me extreme joy, you know, whether it's one person in the crowd or 100. And so what really keeps me motivated is, for any teacher's motivation is when a student gets it. So when I see women come back, a woman hit me, like, I think it was earlier this year or last year. And she said, she had emailed me or messaged me on Facebook 2 years ago and said, hey, Tiffany, I'm doing the Live Richer Challenge. I'm homeless. I just lost my job. I have to move into a shelter. And I was like, wow. She's like, should I still do the challenge? And I said, you know, it's free. You know, if you can email me, if you can message me on Facebook, you could do it from your phone. That the challenge doesn't necessarily have to be reflective of where you are, but where you want to be. So do it. 2 years later, she messages me and says, I don't know if you remember me. I messaged you homeless. And I said, I do. How could I forget? She said, I just closed on my home. Closed, meaning just bought a house.
Amen.
And I'm like, what? And she was like, that challenge helped me so much. I was like, no, you did it. But as a teacher, that is like, that's all you want. I want you to get it. So when the students get it, when the women get it, this is why I don't like speaking to teenagers, because they don't care. So they don't get it. So like, it's like, it doesn't feed me to stand up there. Like, yes, could I make $10,000 standing in front of 1,000 teenagers? That's what I got offered today. And I said, no, I don't want to do it, because the money is good, but that's not the main thing that feeds me. I like looking into the eyes of students and they're like, oh, got it. Life transformed and changed. And yeah, that's what keeps me motivated, because it's a lot of work and it's hard. Like right now, I live in Jersey, but I'm actually in LA right now. I just flew in this morning. Okay. And it's been nonstop since I got here. Tomorrow I'm taping The Real, the daytime talk show. Yeah. And then I fly home. And so,
congratulations.
Right. And then while I'm out here, but you know, I'm engaged. I have a stepdaughter. So it's a lot, you know, like, because you're balancing work and home. And so, you know, I know a lot of entrepreneurs act like, oh, it's so great all the time. It's not. It's hard as hell. I'm working all the time. Like even now when get off from here. It's 7 o'clock here in LA and it's 10 p.m. and I still have to talk to Boo. Like, all right, so, and I'm like, oh, and I still have so many emails to do. So it's a lot, but that's why it's important for you to choose things that are really in alignment with the way you want to live life. Because even when it's a lot, I still find so much joy in it because ultimately I'm a teacher. So when you get it, I get it, you know?
Yes, definitely. We have a mantra on our show, Tiffany, and it's called the purpose formula. You've given us so much of this already, but we asked everybody, so we have to ask you, even though like your episode might be one of the most thoroughest episodes. But anyway, so it's purpose, passion, profit equals success. Could you tell us what you believe your purpose formula is in life?
I believe my purpose formula, I like to call it, it's live richer. And so that's my mantra. And living richer just means to purposefully and passionately live your ideal life. Meaning, one, your ideal life is something that you choose. Whatever that looks like, housewife, teacher, millionaire, whatever that ideal life is to live with purpose, meaning knowing exactly why you're here and to do just that. Like Michael Jordan, why are you trying to play baseball? You're here for basketball. It's clear you failed at everything else. For real. Like Michael Phelps, he's literally built like a fist. His head is extra large. His fingers and toes are webbed. His hands are huge. He is only made to swim. So that is your purpose. Once you figure out your purpose, just do that. You could change the world. He changed the world through swimming. He's not doing rocket science. He's not curing cancer. He swims and has changed, the world through swimming. The number one most decorated Olympic athlete, right? Mm-hmm. And so identifying what your purpose is, the one reason why you're here, and just doing that, and to do so passionately and happily, that even in times when things are hard, honestly, like sometimes even when things are hard, I'm still like, there's something gives me energy to say, I can conquer this, because ultimately I know it's going to work out. Like, I just know it's going to work out. Even when things don't go right, sometimes actually that's when I get my most joy, because I'm like, well, I can't wait till I figure this thing out, and it's going to take me to the next level. And so that's what my mantra is, to live richer, to purposefully and passionately live your personal ideal life.
That is awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Now, can you tell us what's next? What's next for Tiffany Budgenista and Live Richer Challenge?
Honestly, so many things. I remember one time I heard Oprah say that she didn't plan. And I was like, cute for you, girl. The rest of us got a plan. You're a billionaire,
right.
And I didn't understand what she meant by that she didn't plan. I thought, like, that's not possible. You have to plan, But now that I have grown in business as a person, I understand what she means. It didn't mean that she didn't have some plans in place, meaning like, oh, I want to create OWN, or I want to, I know I want to write children's books. I'm in the middle of that kind of. And I know that, I want to, I opened up an online academy called the Live Richer Academy. But what I don't do is plan to the T. I have these overall goals of growth, but what works best is that life is going to bring you where you ought to be. So go forward joyfully, that when you're not fighting against, because sometimes we'll fight for something that we want that's not really what we're supposed to have. And that if we only would just focus on what your true purpose is and stop trying to do everybody else's, like, oh, she's singing, I want to sing. Oh, wait, she's doing gymnastics, I want to do that. No, why are you here? Spend all of that energy sitting and figuring out, why am I here? Because when you figure that out, honestly, just 6 years ago, I was teaching preschool in Newark, New Jersey, the hoodest of all the hoods, right? Just 6 years ago, crack fiends everywhere, driving a broke down car, well, this is life. And I was actually okay with that. But my purpose was teaching. And because I only focused on that, now look, I just got an email today. I can't even say the studio that wants me to fly back out here in 2 or 3 weeks to meet with me to do a show, my own show.
Awesome.
And that's crazy, but that's only because all I do is teach. I'm not fixing, I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not braiding hair. I'm not doing any of that. And so to me, the biggest lesson I hope that people take away from this is figure out your purpose and stick to your divine purpose. And I should have put divine in front of it, meaning the divine is literally the reason why you were created. If you just do that, the world will open up. Some of the stuff that's happened to me, it seems incredible. How is this happening? It's because I finally stopped trying to do anything else other than the one reason why I'm here, which is to teach. That's it. When somebody comes to me with another idea, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good because I figured it out now. If I just do this, I'm going to be a billionaire. If I just do this, I'm going to be on whatever show I want. If I just do this, whatever I desire is mine to have. If I just do this. This is my swimming, Michael Phelps. This is my basketball, Michael Jordan. This is my entertainment, Beyonce. Everyone has to find their divine purpose. And, if you don't, you find yourself feeling like, this is not quite it, or why am I not succeeding, or why I'm not. It doesn't mean that success does not mean like money and stuff like that. I just mean that feeling of like, I'm in the zone. Like, I don't know. And I remember reading a story about Michael Jordan that sometimes he would play a basketball game and he felt like he was floating, like that he was in the zone. Meaning that like the zone is like when your spirit, your soul, your mind, your heart is in perfect alignment, and it feels like, I don't know. I never like smoke weed or anything, but I'm imagine it feels like it's like this another level for real. Like it feels like, and like me speaking to you right now, there were moments when I was speaking, I got in the zone where literally it feels like a higher state of self where like tingly all over my body. It's like, whoa. I'm literally doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it, where I'm supposed to do it right now. It's literally perfection right now. And everybody deserves to feel that. I don't always feel like that, but when I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it, I get that like, whoa, like this interview right here. The reason why it's like killing right now, I can feel it. I know I'm killing it because I'm in the zone. I feel it. I'm like, yes. But every interview doesn't go like this. Sometimes I'm like, wah, like I don't, for whatever reason, the zone ain't there, but the zone is here. So when people get this, they're going to be blessed because I'm blessed.
Yes.
I'm feeling the zone.
I'm in the zone.
By just feeling the energy of you.
Yes.
Trust me.
Yes. So Tiffany, where can you be reached? Can you tell us your handles?
So thankfully, and this is a great business tip that if you're going to get a handle, try your best to get the same one across all boards. So I'm the Budgetnista, the Budgetnista. So fashionista, but Budgetnista, the Budgetnista on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, YouTube, every social media platform, Snapchat. I'm on, all of them. I'm thebudgetnista.com. And if you're like, wow, I want some free help. Well, go to Live Richer, like more money, livericherchallenge.com. And you can sign up for one of the 3 challenges. There's a credit challenge, there's a savings challenge. And if you're indecisive, there's a fundamental that teaches you everything. And it's totally free and it will transform your life as long as you're willing to do the work. So thebudgetnista.com and livericherchallenge.com. And, get your Live Richer on.
Yes. We thank you very much, Tiffany.
Yes, thank
for
you
gracing
so
us
much.
with your presence.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Womanore Crush Wednesday podcast. Be sure to tune in next week for Girl Talk with Jen and Modi, along with some of your favorite business crushes, more exclusive business tips, insights, creative business ideas, and doable action steps to improve your business and help you create your phenomenal life. Sharing is caring. Don't forget to tell a friend to subscribe and stay tuned for a weekly dose of the WCW podcast. Crushing hard on the Womanore and want to hear her story on the show? Know a creative woman-owned business that's killing it? Let us know at womanorcrushwednesday@gmail.com.